hieroglyph with chalk in this way, because in their mind, Pharaoh Merneptah must have attacked and destroyed Canaan nations in his chase of the people of Exodus, Israel. In the edited line 27, the people, which they say is Israel, are not devastated. On the contrary, they exist. This new translation is in agreement with the teaching of Egyptology. One knows that the armies of Merneptah neither attacked nor crushed the nation and people of Canaan, since their actions was limited to Libya in the northwest of Egypt. Merneptah quite simply makes the report of the general situation of Egypt and its neighbors, Canaan included. The mention, line 27, according to which Israel does not have any more cereals, thus resulted from the falsification of the text. It relates rather to the people mentioned in the next sentence, namely Karu, i.e. the Hittites. This interpretation is proven by archaeology. It is known that Merneptah dispatched cereals from Egypt to the starving Hittites, Kata and Karu, victims of a famine. Nevertheless, the chalk trace was maintained on the Merneptah Stele until today. To my knowledge, no Egyptologist nor biblical historian ever called into question the reading, rather the non-reading, of this forged hieroglyph. Now, a lot of people never heard of this because they didn't look. They Googled and simply read what they wanted to read, and they didn't look further. They didn't look at the criticisms. And you have to look at criticisms because that's how it's done when we're doing research. You have scholars who agree, scholars who disagree. And you got to understand that scholars who mostly agree are going to be attached to the church. That's how it goes. These are people that is bought and paid for by the church. When you start researching these people, the biblical scholars, a lot of them are religious, a lot of them are tied to the church. And that's why their accounts can't really be attested to, because they're biased. And you have independent researchers, when they get their hands on things, when they're able to study, they come out with the truth. Either they'll agree, or they'll say inconclusive, or they say, hey, this is right, or what have you. And there are very few things in science pertaining to the Bible that scholars agree on. It's almost none, to be honest with you. But you got to look at this to understand this stele. People want to claim says Israel, does not say Israel. You look, it's not just this researcher, it's a bunch of other researchers and professors who have come to the same conclusion. And this and the whole, scholarly community has already been debunked to us because he's proven what he says. Now, when you go and look there, you can see the chalk line, and right there, the owl head is sort of cut off. So if you're tracing it to try to get it to look, so you can read it, all you have to do is extend that line, and you can make it look just like the vulture, the other bird, and then you can change the wording in that. But this is basically what was done. But no matter what, even still with that, none of it translates into Israel. None of it translates into Israel, right? It's just translate into an area or province that they believe is speaking of Israel, which that area and province basically belongs to where the Phoenician Canaanites was living, not to some people called Israelites. And this is what they used to say, well, you got to give it to the Israelites because it had to be them, right? Because the Bible says so, as if the Bible has been proven. Now, my thing is this. One of the first things I want to look for is, okay, this could say Israel. And that could just mess up a little thing, a little bit of things date-wise in my research. But here's the thing. Can we find that same inscription anywhere in Egypt? No, we can't. So nowhere in the entirety of Egypt do we find that inscription that supposedly says Israel in Egypt. So you would think with the history the Bible tells us about the, correspondence, connections between the Egyptians and the so-called Israelites, you would think we will find this inscription in many places throughout Egypt. We do not. It is the only place we find it surrounded by controversy. So again, it's up to you if you want to believe that nonsense or not. I tend to believe what this researcher is saying, and it's no way possible. Now, had we found this inscription in other places, then I would be like, okay, it's possible. They could be talking about the Jews, but we're talking about the 13th century BCE. Come on, these people didn't exist. If you follow my research and everything I talked about with these people, you know what happened. Okay, so let's move on to the Tel Dan Stele. Tel Dan Stele, same type of situation, same thing, to where there's absolutely no real proof or things to really solidify what they found. Now, they don't really elaborate on the story of the finding of this stele, but when you understand the story, it's completely suspect from the beginning when you understand how it was found and that it's a secondary finding, right? So what do I mean by that? One, the story goes about, let's just say what the stele talks about. Talks about, king of Amram, which is basically Syria, who is talking about defeating these, so-called Israel kingdoms and the house of David, what have you. And that's what it's supposed to be talking about. But where they found the stele is the suspect part because they found it in a wall, right? So they found it used as basically a rock, a piece of construction, you might as well say, to put in a wall. Now, we're talking about somebody taking a piece of a stele with writing on it and putting it in a wall and using it as a rock, just like any ordinary rock. I mean, what does that sound like to you? So now you got to make up your mind and you got to believe that somebody was looking for rocks to build this wall. They found this rock. It had Aramaic writing on it, right? And they decided to use this rock. So when there's a bunch of other rocks around, as you can see here, decided to use this rock to, be a part of this wall. Now, some people would say, well, maybe they was trying to hide it, right? Or maybe they're trying to get rid of it. Well, if you wanted to hide it or for it to not be known, you would just destroy the rock. I mean, you can just chisel the words out and that's the end of it. You're going to worry about somebody finding and discovering it, which is what happened, and then, revealing what it says. So if you wanted to hide it, you would just destroy it. That would make more sense, or chisel the words out, right? It's more likely that they found this rock that was probably being used as a stele at some point, or going to be used, or could be used. It probably was smooth, and they chiseled what they chiseled into it. Now, this first fragment, which is, then they call it fragment A, was the biggest piece, was found first, right? And then that was what, 1993? 1993, right? Took them all this time to find it. 93, they found it, right? Tupac's still alive. So they found this in 1993, and then in 94, they found the other two fragments, right? Fragment B1 and B2, right? So you have to believe that story, that this was just found embedded in a wall, and, a person just put it there because whatever reason. So this is what they call in archaeology a secondary finding. And you can Google this. A lot of people know about this. If you study this whole thing, you already know what I'm talking about. And there's a lot of researchers who don't really go with the findings because of this. Because again, as I just said, somebody could have just found a smooth rock and chiseled the words into it, basically, right? So now it's saying here, the Tel Dan inscription was found on secondary sources, meaning the fragments of the stele were not discovered in their original location, but were found reused in a later construction, indicating they had been moved and repurposed after the original inscription was created. It says this is a common occurrence in archaeological digs. Yeah, usually pertaining to anything biblical. Now let's go to Lamech, because, of course, he's one of the leading researchers on this whole thing and one of the critics. Page 41, Lamech, 1998. The inscription is kept in a kind of pigeon, which, it's not a bird. A pigeon is basically like a language that we're going to use because me and you don't speak the same language, right? It's almost like a lingua franca, right? Kind of pigeon Aramaic, sometimes looking more like a kind of mixed language in which Aramaic and Phoenician linguistic elements are jumbled together. And this phraseology, nevertheless, closely resembling especially the Mishnah inscription and the Aramaic Zakar inscription from Apophis near Aleppo. The narrow links between the Tel Dan inscription and these two inscriptions are of a kind that has persuaded at least one major specialist into believing that the inscription is a forgery. This cannot be left out of consideration in advance because some of the circumstances surrounding its discovery may speak against it being genuine. Other examples of forgeries of this kind are well known, and clever forgers have cheated even respectable scholars into accepting something that is obviously false. It's just like the Dead Sea Scrolls that's in museums across the world. As I said, if you want to believe PhDs and all that, they lie just as well. I understand this is important for them because they have to establish some type of claim of Egypt, right? Now, it's simply talking to House of David. Now, it's just so much around that inscription, but, none of it really translates to House of David conclusively, if you understand. But they need this because it gives them more claim to that land. The inscription doesn't prove David exists. It doesn't prove that everything in the Bible about David is true. But they will tell you clear as day that this fragment is proof of the existence of King David in the Bible. How? And this is what people are going off of. So this is why I do what I do. Because you guys got to understand, so much misinformation out there, and people are really following this, and they are cocky with it too. They will argue you down. All they did was read from Google where it says that this is proof, and it's enough for them. It's enough for them. I've been through this before, man. I've been through this before doing research, and I know how it is. I found a lot of stuff that said this is definitive. And when I found it, I didn't stop. I said, you know what? I want to hear what other people have to say. I want to be critical about it because I want to get to the truth. Because you can believe something. Everybody's story sounds true. And it's always another side to the story. And you can be believing somebody and be banging with them, riding with them and all that. Then you found out later they was wrong. They got you into a whole bunch of bullshit. It was lying the whole time, right? But you just went with them and didn't see the other side of the story. You always have to got to look at both sides. Now, for people who just like to argue and want to be right, this is how they get shut up because they don't want to do no research. But you have to go and look. The main thing I keep hearing from everybody is scholars are in agreement. Well, all the scholars believe. Well, most of the scholars believe as if that's proof. I don't care how many scholars agree with it. I don't care. Now, you have to weigh whether what they're saying as far as their agreement fits, is valid. What more proof do you have to go with it? Or is the critics or criticism against it more valid to you? Now, you can choose which one you like, but come on. Common sense should tell you which one it is. So for people who believe that all scholars are in agreement, they are not. And it says here, according to Anton Rainey, the presence or absence of word dividers is normally inconsequential for interpretation. Word dividers as well as compound words are used elsewhere in the inscription and generally in West Semitic languages. So it is possible that the phrase was treated as a compound word combining a personal name with a relational noun. Makatiak argues that readings other than House of David are unlikely. Joseph Garfinkel has been vocally critical of alternate translation, categorizing them as suggestions that now seem ridiculous. The Hebrew BWTDWD should be read not as the House of David, but as a place named BETDWD in parallel to the well-known place named Ashdod or Ashdod. Other minimalist suggestions include House of Uncle, House of Kettle, and House of Beloved. Francesca Stavrakopoulou, who I've been following for years. She's awesome. If you ever seen her before, she is a researcher, a historian, all kinds of stuff. Her credentials are crazy. And she's also an atheist. So that's where you find an atheist in this field. But this woman is a professor at the University of England. She does a lot. She does not believe Moses existed. She does not believe David existed. She think a person named Jesus may have existed, but not the biblical Jesus. So it's people like this who you got to find who a lot of researchers don't know exist because they shut her up. But Francesca Stavrakopoulou states that even if the inscription refers to a House of David, it testifies neither to the historicity of David nor the existence of a 9th century BCE Judahite kingdom. Now, I talked about this in a previous video. If that video is still on YouTube, I'm not sure, but it was old. And I broke all those stelas down. I crushed those stelas. You guys know one of the reasons when I went to Kemet last time I was there was to go and look at a lot of stelas. I researched them all. I have pictures with a lot of them. Now, one of the things you ask yourself is, okay, we find stelas with the ancient Greeks, with the ancient Egyptians, right? With the Assyrians, the Babylonians, what have you. We found them in Syria. But why is it that the so-called Israelites didn't keep any stone stelas, right? Moses came down from, Mount Sinai with the supposedly 10 Commandments in stone, and he broke them. But it's giving you the understanding that these Israelites, if they existed along with the ancient Egyptians and these other people who wrote stelas, who made stelas, they understood what this stuff was, right? And they didn't write none on their own. They could have even used papyri. They could have used what the Egyptians used and use papyri to write this stuff down if they wanted this to be a word that was, traveled with and known throughout the ages. Now, supposedly, the Levites or what have you, the people who was in charge of writing these manuscripts and carrying this word around did so. But we don't have those manuscripts. We don't have any proof of that. But there's proof of, well, not proof, but there is talk that there was a writing. And if there was supposedly a writing, we should have it. We don't have it. Now, it's real easy to go back and look at history and see what happened, which I get into that a lot, the history of all of this. Talking about the Ptolemies, talking about what happened. Even if the letters of Orestes was true and Ptolemy II Philadelphus commissioned these Hebrew elders to do this translation of the Hebrew law into Greek, that would give the Hebrews an understanding that the Greeks want a manuscript with our laws on it. Maybe we should have one of our own. So we can have one that's established and definitive just in case they try to change our laws or our word or our history or what have you, right? The Torah, the Tanakh, right? The Pentateuch. This is supposed to be their religious writings. Why would they not have this solidified, concrete, right? We don't find it. So they have to shuffle and dance and whatever little thing they find, they want to pertain it to the Israelites, but we don't find nothing. Archaeology has scraped these places, man. There's no fucking Hebrew or Israelite bodies up there. Think about in the Bible how many times God destroyed these people. Where are the graves? Where are these people didn't leave nothing? Nothing. We don't find anything pointing to these people. And everything we do find is bullshit. Now, you can go to any civilization that we know that was proven to exist. We can go to the Incas, we can go to the Mayans, we can go to Africa, we can go to Asia, we can go to people who we know is still walking around today and find ancient remnants of their existence. And for the ancient Egyptians to have existed long as they have, for the Sumerians to have been around as long as they have, right? Everything that we find, all the carvings and the writings, you mean to tell me these people existed and did so much and they left nothing? It's bullshit. I gave you guys the story and the history on it. Now, I don't expect any Bible-believing people to accept what I'm saying in this video, but that's on you. This is for people who do actual research and want to know what's out there. I could have got a lot deeper into this whole subject, but I'm not. It's just too much because it's just, to me, it's just like, come on. Common sense should push you to that, understanding of what happened. Obviously, it's forged. Obviously, it just ding, 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 little chisel to make these marks there, and that's what happened. That's what happened. And they used it and they blew it up because, hey, we need to get people more excited about Israel. Because guess what? When you go to Tel Dan, when you go to that area in Israel, it's a tourist attraction. You can go right to Tel Dan. They cover that thing up. People go there and take pictures. It's a tourist attraction. Just like Golgotha is the whole path that Jesus walked. It's a tourist attraction. Go there and bring me your money. Go take a look. Go to the wall if you want to. And you can see all this stuff for a price, right? It's bullshit. When they were selling off pages or leaves of the Dead Sea Scrolls, I knew it was bullshit. So, come on. If this is your religious writings, right, your people's stuff, why are you making money off of it? Why are you desecrating it? Why are you disrespecting it in that way and allowing people who don't believe or don't follow what you believe to come there and do all this stuff? Same thing I said about the Arabs in Kemet. If that was your people, you wouldn't be digging up their bodies and putting it on display for money. You wouldn't be digging these people out of the ground, disturbing their graves, taking their stuff they was buried with, disrespecting them if that was your people. That's how we know it's not their people. So I wanted to put this out real quick. Feel free, go look up all this, do your own research. Again, you're going to run into things that says this is proof. And you accept that, you accept it. Show me the proof. Okay. What proof besides the actual stela itself do you have to prove that this is what you say it is? And how does the existence of this stela somehow prove everything that's in the biblical text? It doesn't. It does not, right? So it's all suspect. It's all stuff you got to really do your research on and pay attention to, right? It's up to you guys. But people asked about this, so I wanted to put it out, and I forget what video I got into a little bit deeper about the Tel Dan Stele before. I think about both, but it's out there. So, thanks for watching. Links in the description. A lot of people asked about the society. The sale is still up. I put it up. You got like this weekend only to go ahead and take advantage of it. I show you guys, when you get into the society, I give you guys 3 new incomes. I show you guys how to make 3 new incomes. It's not no bullshit. It's a nice way for you to make money. You could quit your job doing these things. I break it down to you just like I break down my videos. You're going to make money. So whatever you pay for this, you're going to make right back super fast and then some. So I'm helping people out with this. A lot of people are already making money off of it. I'm building a lot to help people who have these sites up, how to get them out and promote them more and make a lot more money off of it. So take advantage of it while it's still available right here. I'm making it easier for you guys. Take advantage of it, join the society, and just, take advantage of the information while it's still available. It's not going to be around forever or be available at this level forever. So take advantage of it now while you can, right? Take advantage of it. Link is in the description. Thanks for taking the time to watch. I'll see you guys later. Peace.